And so now I'm going to ask Stan Herman from New York County's Defendant Services to come on up. Thank you. What do we want?
No more deaths!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
No more deaths!
When do we want it?
Now!
We are here for the 22nd time since Mayor Adams took over as mayor of the city of New York to once again cast the light on the death trap that is Rikers Island. Joshua Valles was 31 years old. We began to represent Joshua on April 8th, 2023, when although he was only charged with a non-violent offense, the district attorney's office, using one of the bail rollbacks that were implemented by Albany, turned a non-violent offense and used the back door in order to set bail in the amount of $10,000 on Joshua Valles. He was unable to buy his freedom, and so he found himself on Rikers Island. But Joshua was much more than what he was charged with. Joshua was a brother. Joshua was an uncle. Joshua was a son. And on May 14th, like all sons throughout this country, he did what we all did. He called his mother to wish her a happy Mother's Day. He called his sister to wish her a happy Mother's Day. And inexplicably, 5 days later, 5 days after that phone call with his mother, he was declared brain dead at East Elmhurst Hospital. And we don't have answers. What we do have is a lot of questions. What we've seen is a lack of transparency, and we've seen a Commissioner Molina and a Department of Corrections whose story simply evolves to meet the moment, like a chameleon. So at first, he didn't report that this death had occurred. And they took the position that they didn't really have to report the death. That this wasn't any kind of malfeasance, that Joshua had reported some headaches, and that's what this was about. Well then, we found out that he was taken to the hospital, and we found out that upon arrival at the hospital, he went into cardiac arrest. So then the story evolved, right? And Paul Scheckman, the general counsel for the Department of Corrections, says, well, it appeared to have been a heart attack. That is what occurred to this healthy 31-year-old individual who was in their care and their custody, a heart attack. But what they didn't tell the public, what they didn't tell the monitor in charge of supervising the chaos at Rikers Island, was that a CT scan had been conducted at East Elmhurst Hospital. And that CT scan revealed serious brain damage. So then we have another evolution, which is after his death, an autopsy is performed. And the autopsy reveals a fractured skull. And so then the story continues to evolve from Commissioner Molina, who now says, well, he got into a fight about 30 days ago. 30 days ago. Implying that somehow this brain damage had occurred 30 days earlier. We have a lot of questions. Right? Why did a medical official at Rikers Island, who was apparently seeing a patient who reported a headache, feel the need to call an ambulance and take that individual from Rikers Island to a hospital? What did that individual learn that made them determine this is a lot more than a headache and we don't have the ability to treat this patient on Rikers Island? Why weren't we told about the CT scan results and the brain damage and the brain swelling that occurred?
That's right.
Why weren't we told about the skull fracture? The Department of Correction and Commissioner Molina has lost all credibility with the city of New York, with the communities that are overrepresented on Rikers Island, and with all of you, the media. Because he has now taken the position that he doesn't have to inform the public when somebody dies on Rikers Island. That was just some policy that the de Blasio administration had put out, and they don't have to follow that policy anymore. They want to operate in the darkness and in the shadows, and it is incumbent on you, the press, to continue to shine a light on what is happening on Rikers Island. He has lost the credibility with the federal monitor in this case. Even Mr. Martin is starting to wonder what is going on with the lack of transparency coming from Rikers Island. And so they have called for the judge in this case, the Nunez case, has scheduled a hearing for June 13th. She has ordered that the commissioner appear himself to explain what is going on in this case. The family deserves answers. That mother went from thanking her son for calling her on Mother's Day to grieving him 5 days later. No, I want to leave you with Joshua's last act of compassion and humanity. Joshua had decided that he wanted to be an organ donor should something happen to him prematurely. And so when the mother was finally contacted by the hospital, and I want this to be clear to everyone in the media, to this day, no one from the commissioner's office has taken responsibility or had the moral courage to call that mother to apologize and to say, I'm sorry for your loss. What kind of leader engages in that kind of behavior?
None.
If somebody dies in a school, do you think the principal is going to make a phone call to that parent to say, I'm sorry about what happened? Every time there's some kind of, crime of violence in the street, the mayor goes running out and he's standing next to the family members, expressing condolences and support. But every time a person dies on Rikers Island, there is radio silence from this administration and the commissioner.
Absolutely.
Where is your humanity and where is your compassion? Well, let's juxtapose that by Joshua's family. So finally, on Tuesday, I believe it was June 24th, May 24th, the family is in the hospital. Our attorneys fought to have him released from custody. And by the way, this nonsense that the DOC did compassionate release is a lie. Our lawyers spent 2 days trying to get him released by a court order in the courthouse. And after 2 days, they were finally able to get him ROR'd so the family can have the dignity of mourning their loved one without having a Department of Correction official standing in the room. And so the mother had a decision to make. Does she continue to keep her son alive and come back to the hospital day after day and suffer that trauma of seeing her son hooked up to those machines with no chance of coming back to her, so that they can do what? They can do the analysis, they can do the testing, and they can have the time to follow the process so that they can remove the organs and give life to somebody else. And so she endured that pain. Not for 1 day, not for 2 days, for 3 days she endured that pain. Until the surgeons were finally in a position where they could harvest Joshua's organs and donate them to somebody else. So while Rikers took away his life, Joshua chose to give life to others. That is compassion. That is grace. That is what's missing from the Department of Corrections and Commissioner Miller. I want to end by just having one request of the media. I spoke to the family this morning. They are overwhelmed. They are mourning. And they are imploring on all members of the press to just give them space. Folks have been calling them, have been going to their apartments. I understand it's a newsworthy story and you want information. My office will be happy to provide whatever information we can provide to you. But just give this family the space and the dignity to mourn their loved one and just process what has transpired to this 31-year-old individual named Joshua Valles. Thank you.